Hey guys, welcome to the Touchdown Table. I'm Ryan, that's Tyler, that's Jordan. And this video is going to be another part of our player comparison series. We did one of these with Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz, so check that out if you haven't already. But this one's going to be a little different because this one is with two rookies at a different position. Two rookies at the running back position, Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A lot of love for both those guys at this table. So we're going to break down their stats, compare them, and we're going to talk about how we think their rookie years are going to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of love, and especially for one of these two people, by one of these people at the table. I'm going to go to Jordan so he can talk about that for 20 minutes.
Yep.
Well, I'll try to minimize myself, and actually I'm not going to start talking about it yet. Okay. So I'm going to say something a lot to go back to you guys, but what I was going to say is the college careers of these two players were a bit different now. We can only base it off of college because obviously they are rookies, so that's what we're looking at. So Jonathan Taylor, he played 3 years since his sophomore year, and he played well his sophomore year. And Edwards-Helaire, he played, but he did not get nearly as much time as he did his senior year this past year where they won the national championship. Meanwhile, Jonathan Taylor, since his sophomore year, basically rushing for 2,000 yards a season. That was the sophomore season. He needed 23 more yards to get over 2,000, and that is an insane accomplishment for a running back. So I just want to say that about Jonathan Taylor and say that difference.
It's only 50 seconds. Wow.
Yeah, we were laughing at the side of the table as we watched the timer go up.
I wasn't talking about Clyde yet. That'll be longer.
Oh, gosh. Well, yeah, we're ready for that.
Yeah. But Jordan makes a good point. And you could have the argument of whether, well, this guy's played in college, so more for a lot more years. Ran more. This is going to hurt him in the NFL because he's already been hit a bunch. And there's that whole debate. We might get into that later on. But let's just talk about the talent of these guys. First off, Jordan, you did a good job mentioning their careers in college. And Ryan, could you give us some stats? And I know Jordan has some on his too, just so we can show them what we're talking about before we actually explain ourselves.
Yeah, I got Jonathan Taylor's up right now. You just look at his last season. Played in 14 games, 21 rushing touchdowns, additional 5 receiving touchdowns. And as far as rushing is concerned, 2,003 yards on 320 rushing attempts, and that's an average of 6.3 yards per carry. That is really good. He's not probably as much of an impact in the receiving game as Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, which I'm sure Jordan will talk about in a second. But you look at his receiving stats, I mentioned the 5 touchdowns. He had 26 catches for 252 yards, and that's last season.
Very impressive. Jordan, I'm sure you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Well, you're right, I do. And so I'm going to talk about this last season because that is one that really matters. The other two before that, although he did okay, it wasn't his greatest season. Actually, his sophomore year, he did virtually nothing, but that's neither here nor there. So last season, he had 215 attempts. That is 95 less attempts than Jonathan Taylor did. He ended up with 1,104. Wait, no. I can't read numbers. It's 1,004.
I can't read numbers. That's
1,414. That was not even.
What did you say the first time?
1,404. So I don't know why I said that. I haven't been to school in a while, so
nobody has.
Yeah, no one has. Yeah.
Anyways, so that number for that, and then Ryan talked about Jonathan Taylor's your attempts.
We know
average. Yeah, his average per attempt. I think, what was it, 6.3?
6.3 average yards per attempt on rushing yards last year.
And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire's is 6.6. I will mention the receiving as well because that is very important. Although the stats don't really show how much he was involved in the receiving game with that LSU offense. He got 55 receptions. That really shows it. But a lot of those yards weren't usually for huge gains. He ended up with actually 453 yards in the season off of those 55 receptions, which is pretty good. He's averaging 8.2 yards per reception. He is someone who is always available in the backfield. He's that check down guy. Whenever you're in trouble, just look for Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a nice check down, get some 8.2 yards or whatever it says. He actually only scored 1 touchdown, but it feels like he scored much more than that.
Only 1 receiving touchdown?
That's what it says.
Really?
I know, it's kind of surprising to see that.
I don't know if that's correct. That does not sound correct.
It does not sound correct.
What website is that so we can just...
sportsreference.com.
You using Wikipedia.
I'm not saying website is you.
I know.
So, we've got the stats out of the way now. Now let's talk about what each of them can do. I'm just gonna talk about things I see from Jonathan Taylor when I watched him at Wisconsin in those last 3 years that he started there. Really, Jonathan Taylor is a guy that can do it all. He can go up the middle, he can go outside. But when you're watching Jonathan Taylor, what you see a lot is big plays from him. You can see him making quick escapes, and it seems like the guy never slows it down. He never stops to try and make a fancy move.
Yeah.
He plays it simple. He just goes upfield, finds a hole. If he needs to get to a different place, he can react fast, but doesn't stop too long, doesn't really hesitate. And that's what I love about Jonathan Taylor. That's why he was my number 1 ranked running back coming out of this draft with Clyde Edwards-Helaire right behind him. He's also an effect in the passing game, as the stats show. And with the Colts, who he was now with, that could be a factor because Phillip Rivers is used to throwing 2 running backs like what he had with Austin Eckler. So that's going to be really big on the Jonathan Taylor side. I like what I see from him. So there's my monologue about him.
Yeah, and I just want to add on real quick. You look at Jonathan Taylor. You had a lot of great points. He's a guy. He could be a 3-down back, and honestly, maybe even a 4-down back. Because if it's 4th and 1 at midfield, I'd feel absolutely comfortable giving it to a guy like him because he could just run through the trenches. He's so hard to bring down. He's athletic, but he's also strong, and he has that presence where he can take defenders with him. I just think he's a do-it-all back. I think he's a guy that can come in right now, even with the situation that we're in, where we might not get as much of a real training camp as years past. I think he's a guy that's NFL ready. I think he's the most NFL ready of any running back that was drafted. He was my number 1 running back as well. I just think he's a true 3-down back, and he's the most NFL ready running back in this rookie class.
I do agree with that last statement you said. I think he is the most NFL ready running back, but I don't think he will be the best running back, although I think he is a great running back. You guys made a lot of good points about Jonathan Taylor, but one thing you kind of left out is that speed from Jonathan Taylor. Being a starter for 3 years, he ran a 4.41 40, which is very fast. I believe he had the fastest 40 time for the running backs in this draft class. So he has that speed to back it up as well. But Ryan was saying he's an all-around great back. That is true. But someone who I think is an all-around greater back is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So let's go into that. And why don't you just start the timer right now? Is it already going? It's already going. All right. So I'm going to take a deep breath here because I'm about to go off.
You're sweating. Relax. Take a deep breath.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a nap. I'll be honest. Just wait till it's over.
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ryan was talking about Jonathan Taylor and what he does, how he can do everything. But I just feel like Clyde Edwards-Helaire can do literally everything. We talked about his receiving presence, that running presence. Ryan talked about someone who runs through the trenches. Clyde Edwards-Helaire does that phenomenally. He runs through the trenches phenomenally. He can get outside. He is fast for his size. He's also one of those smaller guys. I've heard comparisons. Darren Sproles.
If that doesn't remind you of Darren Sproles, I don't know what does.
There it was. That's the announcer who said that. For me, Mark Ingram, and sometimes the way that he runs through the trenches, run through people, reminds me of David Montgomery, who is actually on my favorite team, the Bears. But besides that, I could keep going on about Clyde Edwards-Helaire for so long. I talked about it. He's not afraid of contact to run through people. He breaks so many tackles. He's a smaller guy, but he has so much power. He's got some nice speed. I just love Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's going to fit great into that Chiefs offense with the passing game and with the running game. Finally getting a running back that is going to do good. Although the other guys were inconsistent, then the Kareem Hunt stuff happened, but he's no longer there for reasons that I'm just not going to mention. You probably know. So as the timer goes on that they have set for me, I could keep going, but I'm not going to. I love all that and more from Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, in that 1 minute and 40 seconds, you made a lot of good points. And just to add on one quick thing about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's a guy I love too. Just because I like Jonathan Taylor just a little bit better does not mean I hate Edwards-Helaire. First off, I do want to say the offensive line was very good there, so that could have helped him. I really don't look at that too much because what you see on film in the eye test is Clyde Edwards-Helaire is sneaky good. And Jordan said a lot of the things that he can do. He can turn the Jets on right away. Jordan talked about his speed a lot. Really just elusive in many ways. So Jordan made a lot of good points about that. Both of these guys, I think, can be really good. So let's
middle, out to the sides too.
Yeah. Let's transition into the teams that they're on because this has a huge effect on their success in 2020. Jonathan Taylor with the Colts, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's tough to say fast.
Yeah.
With the Chiefs,
I've mastered it. So
to me,
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I think if we're looking in terms of success, it seems a lot easier for Edwards-Helaire to have success because he's already in that high-powered offense. So we might see better stats from Helaire. That would be my prediction. But I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have more of an effect on the Colts than Edwards-Helaire will have on the Chiefs.
I'm actually going to go the opposite way of what you said. I actually think on the stat sheet, I think Jonathan Taylor will end up with better stats than Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the end of the season. Now, I don't think it'll be by much, but I just feel like with that offensive line that they have there in Indianapolis, I think that really helped him out a lot. The Phillip Rivers coming in, we'll see how that works out for the Colts. It'll be interesting to see them with a lot of new moving parts this season, especially on the offense. So I think Jonathan Taylor might have the better stats, but as you know from my predictions, maybe you don't know, I predicted, of course, Clyde Edwards-Helaire to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, because why would I not? Actually, Ryan picked Jonathan Taylor, so we got a little brawl going on here.
Ironic.
Yeah.
And I just want to, butt in here, because you guys both made a lot of great points, but I just think that Jonathan Taylor will have more success this year because a couple of things. One, the offensive line is awesome in Indianapolis. So it's also good in Kansas City, but in Indianapolis, that might be the best unit in the league, possibly.
Especially on the interior of that line.
Yes, and that'll help because he runs up the trenches a lot, so that's good. And then also, Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes. They're going to throw the ball a lot. He's going to be throwing left and right, and Mahomes will probably throw with his eyes closed this year. Who knows? He can do it all. So I expect them to throw. Yeah, honestly, he could. I expect
reach my hand behind my back.
Yeah, just do this. Come on.
I'm not flexible. I can't do that one.
Pinky throw.
Yeah, well,
it's good. I don't know. I got it.
Keep talking.
Okay, yeah. I just think that, and you look at the two situations, you got to compare the situations when you evaluate this stuff. I think you look at Kansas City and you say they're going to throw the ball a lot more. You look at the run-pass ratios. Indianapolis ran it 47.9% of the time last year. That is the 1 to 6th most in the league. So they were already a run-heavy team, but now you got a workhorse like Jonathan Taylor. Why would that change? And you look at Phillip Rivers, their quarterback. Phillip Rivers is not Patrick Mahomes. Phillip Rivers, he had a great career, but I really think that at this point, I don't think he's even that much of an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. Sure, the experience helps, but I really think he is well past his prime. So I expect them to, again, run the ball a lot more in Indianapolis than they will in Kansas City. So I do think Jonathan Taylor will have a better year and better stats overall, but one thing that I think Edwards-Helaire will have the edge in is receiving yards because of that offense in Kansas City.
Yeah, I do agree with that statement a lot, but I'm higher on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he will still have some great stats, but I do think Jonathan Taylor will be over him by just a bit in the yards category of the stats. Touchdown should be an interesting one, actually, to compare at the end of this season, as long as it goes as planned. I was going to say something else, but I forgot, like usual.
Well, I just feel like Andy Reid in the 2020 season, he's going to realize what he has with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's a reason he drafted him in the first round. Yeah. And I feel like he's going to be using him a lot. And he's got an MVP quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, probably the best quarterback in football right now, already on his team. So now he's got him in the arsenal. I feel like if they could mix it up between run and pass, that offense is very close to unstoppable, especially with the weapons they have, but we're not going to get into that right now.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really good for that Chiefs offense to have that running threat finally. And like I said before, they did have it a bit last year with Damian
Williams.
Why did I say Damian Harris?
Damian Harris, yeah. No, he's the running back for the Patriots because the Patriots always draft running backs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Damian Harris. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, that was a throwback name.
I don't know why.
Let's end it on that. I like that note. Let's end it right there.
Well, I wasn't done talking.
I don't care.
What?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just kidding. You can finish. I'm just messing with you.
Okay, like I was saying, I think it's really going to be good for that offense to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire back in the backfield to really help out that team because it turns them into a two-dimensional team. Of course, that pass game is going to be phenomenal again this year because why would it not be Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, the list goes on and on. Nicole Hardman all out there to catch passes from the MVP quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, like I talked about before. But that team is so pass-heavy that sometimes, you drop more people into the secondary, and that leaves more room closer to the line of scrimmage for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and that offensive line to really open up some holes and get some good yardage, play a two-dimensional game. And I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a perfect running back, perfect fit for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's why I had him predicted to go to the Chiefs at pick number 32, and I got it right. So,
and by the way, Damian Harris only had 12 yards in total last year on 4 carries, so I don't know why you got. Yeah,
I don't know why Damian Harris is named.
No touchdowns, no receptions.
I was saying Damian Lewis too. I don't know why I blanked on his name.
Anyways, so there it was, guys.
MVP, by the way.
There it was
in the Super Bowl.
Our player comparison of Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Me and Ryan more on the side of Jonathan Taylor. Jordan more on the side of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I believe we all have them as our number 1 and 2 rookie running backs going into the year. Mm-hmm. So we're high on both of these guys, but we wanted to compare them because it's a constant conversation about it, especially with Jordan at this table.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and make sure to comment down below.
Do it for Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Do it for Jonathan Taylor. Tell us who you like better.
Yeah, comment down below who you think is better. With that, we will see you guys later.
See ya.